Welcome to the Resilient Mindset Podcast, an exciting new podcast by Resilience Queen, Justine Martin. Justine is the owner and founder of the Resilient Mindset, a division of the Justine Martin Corporation. Justine draws on her years of experience and knowledge consulting with clients to develop and sustain a positive mindset. Focused on igniting your passion, purpose and power, follow the Resilience Queen each week as she delves into the mind of her guests, exploring fascinating stories and inspiring journeys.
Welcome back, listeners. Today I've got Clare Reilly. Clare is a disability advocate who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in April 2017. She is passionate about supporting women going through a chronic illness diagnosis through her advocacy work on the MS Understood podcast, where she talks to experts on multiple sclerosis, either with lived experience or a support or healthcare professional. She also supports women through her peer support coaching and her newly released affirmation cards, AFFIRM, a daily dose of inspiration for life with chronic illness. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So let's get right into it. What does resilience mean to you?
I think, honestly, it's really tricky. I think resilience changes day to day. I think it means having the awareness around yourself. And a lot of that can be, some days I don't feel particularly resilient, but I think the understanding of who I am and the understanding that I don't feel resilient makes me resilient in some ways. I really do think it's a level of self-understanding and self-awareness.
Yeah. So good definition there, Clare. A bit different to some of the other ones that we've had recently. What's an adversity that you faced and how did you draw on your resilience to cope?
Yeah. So like you said, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2017. And I think that's, with great adversity comes great opportunity. And honestly, at the time, I probably didn't draw on my resilience as much as I should have. But I think since the 5 years since I've been diagnosed, I have built my resilience through that self-awareness and self-understanding and really allowing myself to feel all the feels. It's about, like I've said, knowing myself. So after my diagnosis, I really did ignore everything for a couple of years. And
that's a grieving process as well, Clare, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've got to go through the stages of grief. People quite often think that grief is only when someone dies. But when you're diagnosed with a disease like we have, you do grieve. You grieve what your life was like before and worry about what your life is going to be like into the future. And that is a process. That's not something that happens instantly, and it's different for all of us. Some people, that might take 12 months. Other people, it might take years.
I think that's a really important thing to share, and I've actually just gotten goosebumps because we don't have to get over a diagnosis, and I think it's really difficult being in the disability community and being an advocate. I think it's really important to acknowledge that being born with a disability is so different from a later in life disability diagnosis, whether that's a car accident, whether that's a chronic illness, whether it's even just having a chronic illness. People go through endometriosis and the insane amount of change and adaptability those women have to deal with. It's so different to have to change that mindset around, like you said, grieving what your life once was and then worrying or considering even just how it might look in the future and being sad about those things that you might no longer be able to do.
And that's okay to be sad. And I've spoken about this on previous podcasts that too often, we're shamed if we feel sad, but it's important to sit in that emotion for a period of time, but not stay in that emotion. And I think having the coping mechanisms, to then pull you out of that emotion. But I had a bad day last week. I had a sad day, and I get frustrated as you do. Our body's not doing what we want them to do. And that's different than having depression.
Absolutely.
It's okay to sit in that sad emotion.
And I think part of that is that, today might be great and we might get along and do whatever. And then next week, like you said, you have a sad day or you have a grieving day, anger, sadness, frustration. And that's, for me, 5 years post-diagnosis, for you, many years. And in 10 years' time, we can still be grieving the life that we had or still be frustrated at our body. That doesn't go away. Oh. And I think being able to deal with that and acknowledge that and, like you said, sit in it but move on from that, that is resilience.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, I'm this month, today actually is my 11th year of diagnosis. Yeah. But, I've been living with this since I was 9 with, having going through my mum's journey and that as well. It is frustrating. It is, those sad days I don't get as many sad days now than what I used to, but occasionally, one will creep in there and it's a biggie. And, I'll still cry and wish that I could turn back time, which is never going to happen. So, but then go, okay, well, there's still a lot of positive things in my life, and then focus on those positive things and pull myself out of that. But sad, I think, like pity you party said, for the day. I say to me, I'm having a pity party for the day. So. And
I think, like you said, it's important to have those days because not allowing ourselves to be sad and to grieve is that toxic positivity. Oh, no, it's fine. My life's fine. Yeah, your life might be great, but also you have to live with this really shit thing.
Yeah,
that's
right.
We're allowed to feel both things.
Yeah, we are. That's human. That's human. And, we don't have to be Wonder Woman all the time. And like you said, put on that positive face because that takes up too much energy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's some, adversity that we face, but we look at for the positives as well. And looking for the positives is a coping mechanism. What other coping mechanisms do you use, Claire?
I don't know if I would necessarily call them coping mechanisms. I'm a push througher. So, I do have my sad days, my grieving days. I get angry when I'm sad, anger at the things. But I love a morning swim. So my hair is a little bit damp. I've just rushed down to the beach this morning and jumped in for 5 minutes. And it's getting colder, which I'm loving. So jumped in the bay for 5 or 8 minutes and then came home and had a quick shower before chatting with you. So that's something that I was speaking with someone the other day, and the interesting thing I find for me, and she was saying the same, doesn't have MS, completely different situation, but had been going through a grieving time, is that I often find that I do the things that are good for myself when I'm feeling good. And then there's that cycle of like you do them, and then you fade out of doing them. And then you start to feel bad, and then you can't figure out why you're not feeling so great. And then you realize you should be doing those good things, those self-care. So I started jumping in the bay. I'm really lucky to live 700 metres from Port Phillip Bay. I just can pop down and jump in. And I started doing that in winter last year. So it was cold, like really cold. And then throughout a lot of summer, I actually stopped doing that. And in part that was, we're having summer holidays and relaxing and not being so like have to do all the things. And it was warmer. So I wasn't feeling the benefit as much as I was when it was cold. But also I noticed that my mental health really took a dive because I wasn't taking that time for myself in the morning.
Self-care is extremely important to do, especially when you're facing an adversity.
And it's interesting that you say facing an adversity because the reality is we're facing an adversity every day.
That's right.
It's not we have faced adversity. Every day we have to get up out of bed and keep going.
And every day is different.
Every day is different. And yesterday I woke up in pain. And that's hard. Like when
that's me today.
Oh, well, I feel for you because yesterday was rough. And then I pushed myself because there's those things of like, I want to do the things that make me feel good. I got to go, I've been doing a ceramics class, which I loved. And then after that went
that's self-care.
And do you know what? It's so nice. I do a lot of things like you around MS for other people. Doing ceramics has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
I get to go to the class.
It's for you.
It's just for me. And I came home with a mug yesterday. I was so excited. So, but then through that, I, was in more pain. And then I went op shopping, and I love op shopping, and I got heaps of really great items of clothes, but I was still in pain. And then I spent the afternoon on the couch. I've
still in pain.
Still in pain. And so much pain that I described it to my husband. It felt like someone was rubbing up and down my shin a burning hot saucepan. Like they'd just taken it off the stove and they put it against my shin and they were just moving it up and down my shin.
Oh, I so get that. Mine's like someone's getting razor blades and slicing through my skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially like having a shower when the water runs down my legs. Oh. That's what that feels like. But, and then other days they can be burning on fire. Other days they're so icy cold I can't feel much at all. So, we do face adversity every single day.
And so in terms of, those coping mechanisms or coping strategies, it's really, I don't have a morning routine. I don't think it's realistic for anyone, but particularly someone who doesn't know how they're going to wake up feeling. But I do things that I know are going to make me feel better, like jump in the bay. And that is in my family. That's a priority for me. So my son, who's about to turn 8, knows that mum goes for a swim in the morning and he sits and eats breakfast while I do that. Yeah. So my family knows that that's a priority because my mental health is better. I physically feel better. And then, there are other bits and pieces. I do try and meditate. I'm not very regular at it, but I do know that I feel better when I do it. And also I love some mind-numbing Instagram scrolling, and I do it because I don't want to do anything else. Yeah.
And they're your self-care things. And we're all different. We all have different needs, and our self-care is always different, but it is important to put yourself up, the top of the ladder and take care of that, because then it does make it a little bit easier to cope when adversity comes around. And, if you're in tune with what your mind's doing and if you're lucky enough to be in tune with what your body's doing, it does make it a lot easier.
I also think that, we talk about being selfish, that person's selfish. I see selfishness as a positive thing, because if I can't look after myself, or if I don't look after myself, there's no way that I'm going to be able to make my son's lunchbox or support my husband, whatever. I need to come first.
That's right. And that's the oxygen mask theory. So,
absolutely.
The air hostess tells you to put your oxygen mask on first before you help even a child sitting next to you. Because if you don't have enough oxygen going in, you're not going to have enough energy or air or be alive to look after anyone else. And that's the same in, everyday life, is to make sure that you are putting your oxygen in, and whether that's going to ceramic classes or going for bay swims, or in my case, it's going into the studio and creating some art, getting my nails done, and my toenails done, all those little things of self-care for me that make me feel better, then everyone else around me is taken care of. But, if I feel that, my needs aren't being met, well, then I'm in a bitchy, shitty mood, and look out everyone that comes near me. So.
I heard a great question this morning, and it was, what are you going to do in your life to spark some joy today? And I thought, it's something we don't ask each other enough, that putting ourselves first is almost a shame around it. And if it takes, like you said, going to get your nails done, why not? Go for it. So, I really like that question.
Yeah. Or, having a hot bubble bath and turning off all social media and lock the door, keep the kids out, those kind of things. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to start being self-care. Self-care might be just going for a walk, making sure that you get your walk in every day, or you exercise, whatever your choice of exercise is. But, they're all self-care, and looking after what you see on social media or in the news, and that's all self-care as well. Fueling your body, fueling your mind, all self-care.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, since being locked down in COVID, in the last couple of years, people are a little bit more aware of their self-care needs and looking after that. One of my self-care things is to make my bed every morning.
Yeah, I feel like I can't do anything else if my bed's not made.
That's right. At least I've accomplished something during the day. Depending on what my body's doing, I might spend the rest of the day on the lounge, but I have made my bed.
Yeah.
And it means I can't get back into it.
See, sometimes I get onto it.
Yeah, I get on top of it, but I won't get back in it.
Yeah.
I'm with you. So who are your role models in resilience, Claire, and why?
With over 11 years public speaking expertise, Justine thrives on delivering a powerful and empowering keynote to audiences of all sizes. From a packed room of 500 people to an intimate gathering of 50 people, Justine will command the room with her inspiring journey and engaging antidotes. Email hello@justinemartin.com.au to book Justine for your next event.
How do they inspire you?
Honestly, I think it's the community, the MS community, and I've been hosting a podcast chatting with people who, like you said, live with MS or can help people with MS I released episode 72 this morning,
Wow.
So for almost a year and a half. And those people are my inspiration. The resilience of people who have been diagnosed with a chronic illness, who need to get up, like we were saying, get up and keep going every day whilst dealing with adversity. There's just so much kind of hope in that. If people can find great things every day, that level of gratitude every day in amongst that level of adversity, that's my inspiration. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah. I can so relate to that. I mean, I teach disabled people 3 days a week on art wellness classes, and I see the struggles that they have, and it's inspiring to see them all create such wonderful art, despite the adversities that they also face daily. My kids as well. I look at my kids. I'm sure you look at your son, and they're resilient in what they go through, and in my case, my grandkids as well. We're all facing adversity in society of some way, shape or another. Adversity comes in so many different forms.
I think too, when we live, like we've said, when we live with something like this every day, there's a level of empathy that's created. So I have been forced to realize that I have no idea what Joe Bloggs walking down the street is going through. Like, we don't need to beep at the car driving in front of us because we don't know if they've been sitting in the car sobbing because their dog has just died. Like, we don't know what anyone else is going through. We talk about MS as an invisible disease, and obviously there's levels of invisibility around it. But everyone's living the invisible disease. And I know it's a really stereotypical thing to say, but the invisible disease that is life, like, everyone's going through hard things, I think. And it's a level of obvious. I think there's the more the different things you go through, obviously the different level of resilience you have, I think. And some people's breaking point might be that they stubbed their toe that morning. Some person's breaking point might be a car accident. There is levels of what people can handle.
Yes.
And I don't think we give each other enough credit for what we're all going through.
I totally agree. And I don't think we also celebrate enough the times when life is good and sit in that moment either. And, recognizing, okay, well, life's not too bad at the moment. Let's celebrate that, life, this is a good day. I mean, I know I celebrate a good day. I don't know if you celebrate a good day, Claire. It's like, today wasn't so bad.
But also, as you would know, at the end of my podcast, I love to ask everyone what's the best thing to have happened because of your MS. And I think that we don't, it's hard and we're going through hard things, but there are some great things that have come out of being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis for all of the people that I chat to.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
yeah.
What's a good thing that's come? You knew I was going to ask you that.
Do you know the funniest thing is I say this because I ask that question, I then get asked that question quite often. And I don't I should have a scripted answer ready to go. I just don't.
It can change. It can change.
Well, and I think it does, but I do really think there's that level of resilience and that level of empathy. And that's not just in me, but the people around me. So it's really taught the people around me and myself about what I was just saying, about how other people are going through something. You know, my son when I grew up, I didn't know anyone with a disability. It was out of the box. I hadn't really seen or associated with anyone with a disability. You know, old people use walking sticks, that kind of. And so I interviewed my son for my podcast, and that came out last week, and it was very cute, I think, because I can. But the cool thing I noticed from talking with him and, from seeing it all the time is he doesn't think it's weird that I use a walking stick, and his friends don't.
Because it's become a normality in society.
So they ask the question, why does your mum use a walking stick or that kind of thing? But now because they see it regularly, it's like, well, she's got a walking stick. Like that, it's not even a conversation that we have to have. And so I think that level of empathy and understanding that I'm able to, obviously I'm quite public about things, but in our community, I'm just doing it. Like I'm just living my life. But because kids I know now are seeing someone with a walking stick and seeing someone who falls over or trips over or needs to hold someone else's hand to walk across the road. It's become a normal thing, which I think is really
in their
good
world.
thing. In their world, sorry, of course.
And
I think that's one of the best things to have happened.
Yeah. Well, that's, I can relate. So many amazing things have come out of me, living with this disease. And I think the friendships, the people that have come into my life now are, amazing, strong, resilient people. And I'm blessed to actually have them in my life, including yourself, Claire. So, I look at where my life was going 11 years ago, and I'd always wanted to learn how to paint, and thought, I'll do that one day when I retire, and when I'm 60, 70, 80 or 90, and then when you're forced to retirement, so to speak, when you're told you can't work anymore, then I picked up a paintbrush. And if I'd waited until I had retired, at the age of, let's say, 70, there would be 30 years of painting that I would have missed out on, and 30 years of enjoyment that I would have missed out on. So not everything is bad when you're diagnosed with a disease like we have. I mean, it sucks. It sucks every day. Let's be honest. And I think
that's important too. Like, yes, it's got, we've got good things out of it, but it still sucks.
It still sucks.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And we can still be resilient, and we can still have empathy, and it still sucks. Like,
exactly.
It's that thing about being happy about our lives and still grieving the lives that we don't have anymore.
I think you have to accept the diagnosis. Or me, personally, I had to accept, okay, this is what I've got.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. You have to like it. You can accept it, but you don't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I once posted a reel on Instagram, when Christina Applegate was diagnosed, and it was that it's a funny voiceover of someone being like, "Oh no, she was so nice," and someone said to me, "Oh, you would like to welcome people to the disabled community," and I said, "I welcome her, but I don't wish this on her. No. Like, if she didn't have to have it, I would take it away."
Yeah.
So like, welcome to the people who have it. And I hope that it all works out for you, but I wish none of us had to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. So Claire, what are some of your passions in life?
This is super interesting because I feel like I've been going through a bit of a rebirth recently where I've spent so much time, my son's 8 now. He's quite self-sufficient. Obviously we still have to cook his meals, but like we can have a conversation and I'm not changing nappies. And I've come to that stage of my parenthood, I suppose, where I'm like, what do I like? because I've spent so much time being a wife and a mum and a woman who has MS and publicly talking about that. So it's interesting. I'm super passionate. Well, I've very much enjoyed ceramics, so I'm going to continue doing that. I'm really passionate about learning about our Indigenous history of Australia. My husband and son have Indigenous heritage, and that's something we're very passionate about in this family. So as much education and as much learning about the Wadawurrung people in our area and the Darug people, which is where my boys are from, up near Sydney. So, yeah, that's something I'm super passionate about. Education. I love reading. So I always have, I think I've got 3 books on the go at the moment, maybe 4. Like I'm always in multiple, I've got a book in every room in the house. And creating, whether that's the podcast, blog posts, writing, and I suppose that's the creative, the ceramics. So I'm loving alcohol inks, which I know you do. Just like, you know, I don't think I'm particularly good at any of these things necessarily, but I really enjoy being creative. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, it's important to have a hobby or hobbies. Because again, when you're facing an adversity, that is a major coping mechanism. That if you can still create or you can still do something that inspires you or makes you happy, that makes it a little bit easier to face the adversity that you are. So, how can people contact you, Claire?
So I'm in the midst of getting my website redesigned. So that's www.clarereilly.com. You can find me on Instagram, claire.reilly. It's probably the 2 places I hang out.
Cool.
Well,
or you
Instagram.
can contact me and I can forward on your details.
Yeah.
But we'll put them in the bio as well for you.
People are interested in hearing the podcast, you can search for that anywhere, just looking up MS Understood.
I'll put a link to your podcast in my podcast for you as well, Claire. So I've got a few quirky questions for you now. Pineapple on pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favourite pizza?
Oh, I like it like vegetarian with extra mushrooms.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tea, coffee, hot chocolate or wine?
I don't drink alcohol. I drink decaf tea or coffee. So, like, I'm pretty impartial.
Okay, next one. Favourite music?
Pop.
Cool.
I love pop music.
You got a favourite band?
No.
You just like all pop?
I'm just like, I could just have it on the background. I couldn't even tell you who sings the songs. Just have it playing.
Favourite food?
Almost anything.
Is there anything you don't eat?
Not really.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Me. I'm not allergic, and I really don't dislike things. Every now and again, I'll find something I'm like, not a fan. Oh, I actually really don't love tomatoes.
Oh, see, I like tomatoes.
But I love homegrown, like I'll eat homegrown cherry tomatoes, but I'm not like, I wouldn't put tomato in a sandwich.
Be like my daughter, she won't eat them in a hamburger, and if they're put in the hamburger, she won't even eat the whole hamburger, even if you pull them off.
No, I'll take them out.
Okay, loo paper forwards or backwards?
Forwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pineapple and loo paper. We have a lot in common, Claire. And MS.
Yeah.
Well, Claire, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And remember, listeners, stay resilient. Until next time.
We hope you enjoyed the Resilience Mindset podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast to get your weekly fix listening to Resilience Queen Justine Martin. Follow Justine on social media at Resilience Mindset or log on to justinemartin.com.au. And until next time, remember, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient.